This video is now in session, and Florida is a liberal state in terms of policies. If we look at the past three elections in terms of the ballot amendments that were put on proposal for people to vote, we've seen that a lot of them, with the exception of taxes, have been pretty friendly for Democrats. So for the 2020 election, there are mainly two things here. Amendment 2, which is raise a minimum wage, and Amendment 3, establish top two open primary system. So, actually, this one's, yeah. So for the minimum wage, this one was approved by 61% from $8.56 all the way to $15 in 2026. And this was mentioned in a previous video. And then here, Amendment 3 established top two open primary system, which it would then work similarly to Georgia's gubernatorial election. Not Georgia's gubernatorial election, Georgia's Senate election in both the regular and the special election, where there was no majority and the top two candidates would go to the general election. Now here it says establish top two primary open system, not a jungle primary, which means that no matter what happens, the top two candidates go to a runoff. It's not gonna be like if one candidate does not get 50% or more. And in this case, it favors Republicans to have this kind of system because Democrats are much more likely to split their vote in Florida rather than in the primaries rather than Republicans. So as a result, saying no is actually more favored than saying yes. So that's how that favors Democrats. Now in the 2018 election, we saw even more amendments. We saw restoring voting rights for felons. This is a pretty liberal policy, but it was approved by 64.5%. And then we also have ban drilling and vaping, 68.9%. Voter control of gambling, 71.5%. Supermajority for tax increases. That's the only thing that favors conservative ideology here is tax increases. Survivor benefits and requiring voters on higher education fees, 65.8%. Criminal victims' rights, judges' retirement age, 61.6%. End dog racing, 69.1%. Prohibit lobbying and abuse of office, 78.9%. These are all pretty, somewhat to pretty liberal kinds of ideas. Here we have expansion of medical marijuana, 71.3%. This one is the only one that goes against the buck. Solar energy subsidies, it's a no. Even though 49.2% of only 49.2% of voters disapproved of it, 50.8% of voters, a majority of Floridians, approved of solar energy subsidies. And then here, these are property tax exemptions. So, what can we get from this? Democrats can definitely win in Florida. A lot of these policies that are being approved by the people, they're pretty democratic, they're pretty liberal, and I think Democrats realize that a lot of these amendments are liberal and are being passed by Florida, and so does Republicans, which is why Republicans are definitely trying to limit these amendments so that they're not as big in the future. But for the Democrats, they realize that that Florida has liberal ideas. But there are two main things stopping Democrats from actually being able to win in Florida, besides Republicans being very good at campaigning. It's also about taxes. It's a lot about taxes and the economy, because based on these amendments, the only thing that goes conservative for Floridians is taxes, and that's not surprising. Florida is a very adverse state for taxation. So for the Democratic Party, if they focus on the economy and if they focus on trying not to increase taxes on Floridians, then obviously they have a much better chance of winning this state. For a lot of Floridians, it's about the economy, and that's also pretty national. It's about the economy, stupid, as Bill Clinton said. And that's likely to stay the way for Florida. Now, in the 2020 election, Joe Biden, it was mainly a discourse on social issues. on racial justice, on policing, on anti-race crimes, and that really started like the whole culture wars thing with woke with like cancel culture and then anti-woke culture, and that has nothing really to do with the economy. And for a lot of these voters in Florida and in Texas, it doesn't have anything to do with their day-to-day lives. They want to know what happens with their life, not with other people's lives. So that's why the Democrats were not able to win in Florida and in the west side of Texas, like the Rio Grande Valley. It's because they didn't focus on the economy enough. And Democratic reports acknowledged this after the 2020 election. They said that the Democrats that focused way too little on the economy, and how it was in a recession, and how they would, how if they were elected president, they would regain on the economy, how they would do better on the economy, what kind of things would they do to help the people, like stimulus or welfare benefits or taxation. Those kinds of policies mattered a lot more to Floridian voters and Hispanic voters, especially in Florida and Texas, than any kind of social issue that isn't pertinent to them. So that's how Democrats have not been able to win. It's because they have not focused enough on on economic policies. And if they do not focus enough on economic policies, then Florida and Texas will continue to be Republican, even though a lot of these policies that they put on the side, like expanding medical marijuana, are pretty liberal ideas. But who knows? We could see a change, but based on the 2016 election, the only place that changed is the South. Every other place changed to more Republican. And in the 2020 election, the South went back to being a little bit more Republican, and then these states didn't really account for much. Not states, these regions of Florida didn't account for enough change to counteract the South's change to becoming much more Republican. So that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. This video is now adjourned, and I'll see you in the next one.